Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today, I have an incredibly special guest, someone whose work has deeply influenced me and also just the field of human behavior, personal development, and self mastery. So, today we have Dr. John Demartini, who is a globally recognized human behavior expert, educator, and author who has dedicated over 5 decades in studying and teaching what drives human potential, fulfillment, and success. So I'm very excited to have you here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So as I said offline, I'm such a big fan of your work, and I'm really excited to dive deep on what I know will really serve my audience, the outer audience. But before I do that, when I was doing some research on you, I found it super interesting about almost how you defied all odds with your schooling experience and to now what you have done and created. So I would love to just you should share a little bit of your journey, whatever you're comfortable with, or your story of how you got into this line of work.
Well, I'll do the brief version. I
Yes.
I had physical and mental challenges as a child. I was told in first grade that I would never be able to read, never be able to write, never be able to communicate effectively, probably not go very far, not amount much. I got into physical sports after wearing braces on my arm and leg as a child to try to excel at something. I left home at 13, became a street kid, but liked surfing, and Texas wasn't a surf capital. So I learned how to surf in Texas, but at 14, I went to California and Mexico, and 15, I moved to Hawaii. And I lived under a bridge. I lived in a park bench. I lived in a bathroom. I lived in an abandoned car. I lived in whatever way capacity so I could surf. I was a surf kid.
Mhm.
I nearly died at 17 when I was living over in Hawaii. And in the recovery of that, I was led to a little health food store and a yoga class. And I met a teacher named Paul C. Bragg who inspired me one night to believe that maybe I could overcome my learning challenges and someday become intelligent. And I really got inspired one night by his speech, this gentleman, and he made me believe that I could do it. I could overcome this. And I started on a journey to want to become intelligent, to become a teacher and travel the world and do like he had done and inspire people or to try to help people overcome their challenges, you might say. And that led me to go back to school, well, take a GED first, and then go back to school, fail, recover from that, and then be more than determined and learn how to read. And once I started to memorize words in the dictionary and grow my vocabulary with help of my mom, I became a voracious reader. I've read 31,000 books and just been a voracious reader for the last 52 years and trying my best to catch up with the other kids and be intelligent and try to share ideas that are meaningful. And so I spend my day teaching, researching, and writing every day, and I travel full time, and I just love it. This is what I've dreamed about doing since I was a teenager, and I'm still a teenager at heart, but the outer shell is a bit more prunish.
No, you're doing very well. And I think even just with what you're sharing, it's really beautiful to hear that, you know, your mentor in that moment really saw you and you felt very seen. And I guess he held this vision for you of like, you can be something that, he saw the potential in you and so that you could see that. And it's really beautiful that now you're doing that for so many and then continuing that ripple on effect. So, so beautiful. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing.
I studied with him for 3 weeks,
Mm,
and then he left, and then I never saw him again, but I did get to know his daughter
mm,
and his daughter, Patricia Bragg, and one day in Hawaii, when I was speaking in Hawaii, she walked in the back of the room. Now, she's about 4'7", little bitty thing, and she came up to me at the break, and she came up, she put her arms around me, and she said, "You remind me of my father."
mm. And how did that feel?
Pretty inspiring, and I told her, I said, "Well, he inspired me and, to do what I do," so, anyway, it was very heartfelt,
Beautiful.
but yeah, I that's what I do. I just research every day, I write every day, I teach every day, and I travel most every day.
Mm.
So, on the go.
Beautiful. And I know that you share and you're able to help a lot of people to overcome, the challenges in their lives. And obviously you had big challenges that you have overcome, and then you're just a walking example of that. What do you see that most people, what gets in their way the most in maybe even self-sabotage in their ability to reach who they truly are and to almost inspire themselves in the way that you are doing it for yourself now.
They compare themselves to others instead of compare their own daily actions to their own real dream. So they try to be second at being somebody else instead of first at being them. And they don't have to put people on pedestals or pits. They can put them in their heart and have reflective awareness and look inside and give themselves permission to stand on the shoulders of giants and do something extraordinary. But we compare ourselves to others, inject their values, try to live in other people's values, and that doesn't work. What works is identifying what's really most inspiring and meaningful to us, and then stick to priority and pursue it, and learn to delegate the other things to other people and let them do what they love while you get to do what you love and get on with what it is that you feel your calling is to do. Whether that's raising a beautiful family, or whether it's being politically active, or whether it's running a major business, or is that developing intellect and teaching, or sports, or whatever it may be. I don't judge what it is. All I'm interested in is helping people find out what their calling is, their love to do. Because when you can't wait to get up in the morning and give your service, people can't wait to get it. And there's a power in being authentic. I really believe that all the symptoms of our life are feedback mechanisms guiding us to authenticity, where we're living congruently with what we value most. And that's really the end goal there. I mean, you only have so many years on a planet, maybe 120 years or something or less, and you might as well fill your day. If you don't fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you, it's designed to fill up with low priority distractions that don't, which devalue you, to guide you back to what's priority.
And I know you speak a lot about and you teach a lot about with this value systems. And I think it's really important. I love how you just mentioned about the feedback systems because life will always give us feedback and also our body will always give us feedback of whether, as you said, it's authentic to us or in alignment to us. And I really love how you just shared it. Doesn't matter what the thing is. I practice something called human design, and this really helps people to be able to be like, okay, what is my gut actually feeling excited about? What do I feel called towards? And then when you see that's not random, that's not by accident, that's your authentic expression that you're here to play with and experiment with and just see. So how do you guide people through of like, understanding what their values are, beyond that social conditioning or beyond the comparison? Because yeah, exactly. If we're living in our social conditioning or in that comparison, of course you're going to look to other people and be like, okay, well, what are they doing? They got success. So should I be doing that? And it's coming not from a true authentic place within.
Well, anytime you hear yourself saying, I got to, I have to, I must, I should, I ought to, supposed to, I need to, it's not you. That's an outer authority.
Mm,
And your life demonstrates what you value. If you ask a series of questions and discern what is your life demonstrating, it's really eye-opening.
yeah.
On my website, drdemartini.com, I have a value determination process. It's free, it's private, takes about 30 minutes. It's worth it. Just drdemartini.com, determine your values. I promise you it's worth 30 minutes of your time. And if you do, it'll print out kind of a print. You can print out on your computer or whatever, or bring it sent to you, what your life is demonstrating, not what your fantasies are, not what you think it ought to be, not what you think others are doing, but what is your life demonstrating you're committed to. It's really eye-opening. And I tell people to do that, whether it doesn't matter what they want to pursue, but be really clear about what it is that their life is demonstrating they're committed to. Because every perception, decision, and action is based on your values and how you fill your space and how you spend your time and what is it that you know, you're energized by, what is it that you spend your money on, what is it that you're most ordered and organized around, what are you most disciplined in, what do you think about, visualize, and affirm or internally dialogue with yourself about how you want your life that shows evidence to coming true. What do you talk to other people about most? What is it that inspires you and brings tears to your eyes? What is it that you have that's persistent and consistent in your goals that you keep making happen? And what is it you love learning about?
Mm,
Those are great indicators of what your life actually demonstrate, not the fantasies. Because if I ask people to write down their values, I'm going to guarantee that at least 20% of them are injected ideals from outer society. I've been doing value determinations for 46 years. I've done it millions of times. Well, my system has done it millions of
yeah.
times. And I've watched people lie to themselves and then they trap themselves because then they expect to be something they're not instead of follow what the real intrinsic drive is calling them to do.
And then it brings me to even what I know you also teach about is this perception piece. And it's like then that drives your perception, which creates your reality. And so it quite literally will manifest or create your external reality based on how you're seeing the world or how you see yourself. And, it is, even with understanding your values, it's just the really obvious things. It's like, yeah, exactly. We said, what is most organized? What do you enjoy? What do you study? What do you,
What do
what
you
might be
spontaneously act on? That's the
Mm,
thing. Can
mm,
I share a story? An interesting
please.
story. I was in London doing my signature program, the Breakthrough Experience, which I've done 1,230 times now.
Wow.
We had a lady there on the second day when we were writing out a mission statement. We were actually composing it, and I was going through the details and the content of a mission statement, something that brings a tear of inspiration that you want to fulfill and pursue in life. And she says, "I don't know what I want to do. I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know." I said, "BS. Stop.
Yeah.
Your life demonstrates it. What do you do every single day that you spontaneously do that nobody has to remind you to do, that you love doing, that you just get up and do?" And says, "I don't know. I don't know." I said, "Stop. Answer the question. What do you do every single day that you spontaneously do that you love to do?" And she says, "Spend time with my kids." Okay. "And do you spend time most every day with your kids?" She says, "I do. I homeschool my kids. And I'm with them throughout the day, most of the day from the time they get up to the time they go to bed." I said, "So do you fill your space with your kids? Are kids around you throughout the day?" "Yes." "Do you spend most of your time with your kids?" "Yes." "Is that what energizes you?" She says, "I love it. That's what I dream about. I've always wanted to be homeschooling kids and, developing great kids." I said, "Is when you get money, does it go to education of kids and everything goes to kids?" She says, "Yes. I live moderately, but everything goes to my kids." I said, "Is that what you is most organized and ordered?" "My whole curriculum, all my classes, it's all organized. The day is organized." "Yes." "Is that where you're most disciplined?" "I never miss a day, even if I'm sick." I said, "Is that what you think about, visualize, and talk to yourself about most?" He says, "That's all I think about. That's all I talk about. People think I'm crazy. That's all they talk about is my kids. That's all I'm gonna talk about." "When you converse with people, do you keep bringing conversations about your kids and teaching them and what you're teaching them?" "Yes." "Are you inspired by that?" She got a tear in the eye. I said, "Is this what, your long-term goal?" And she says, "Very young, I wanted to do that, and I'm doing it." I said, "And when you study, is it mainly about how to raise kids and teach the subjects?" She says, "That's what I study." I said, "You're very congruent, but you're comparing yourself to somebody else and not honoring what you're really committed to doing. You're a teacher, you're a mother and a teacher, and you're doing an extraordinary job, but you're somehow thinking that's not good enough." She goes, "Well, that's it. Is it good enough?" I said, "You're comparing yourself to another woman that has a different set of values, that's running a business and has 2 kids and has nannies and au pairs taking care of them. You're also comparing yourself to," and I found this out, was comparing to yourself to a person that was involved in politics and also having helpers. I said, "They have a different set of values and they're dedicated to that. But you're thinking, well, just raising kids is not good enough. I should be doing this. I ought to be doing this." And I said, "You are a mother." When Rose Kennedy, when she wrote down her mission statement, she said, "I dedicate my life to raising a family of world leaders." She said to me with tears in her eyes, she said, "That's all I've wanted to do is raise amazing kids." And I said, "That's your mission. Stop comparing yourself to other people, thinking you don't know what it is, which isn't true. Your life demonstrates what your values are. Honor it." And she hugged me and she cried, and the whole room got tears in their eyes because she knew the whole time, but she was comparing herself to other people and was afraid to admit what she really wanted to do and thinking it wasn't good enough. Don't compare yourself to others and put them on pedestals and put yourself in pits and think you're self-sabotaging and think you're self-depreciating. Those symptoms of self-depreciation are feedback mechanisms to guide you back to honor who you are and to honor what your real mission is. So don't buy into the labels, get into the lovables. Watch what happens.
Oh, powerful. Even just that, you can feel like this sense of relief that she would have. And also then you can actually, enjoy it and step into it and appreciate it. And
Yeah.
again, it's like your
What
perception fully changes.
she went back there and knocked out a mission statement.
Yeah.
And when she got through, she asked, "Can I read this?" I said, "I am absolutely certain that the people in this room would love to hear it."
Yeah.
And there was no dry eye in that room. She was writing what she really wanted to do.
Mm.
And that's the inspiration that I get to watch every day, helping people become authentic, helping them go in their perceptions, decisions, and actions, follow what's true for them, let them be clear about what that is, and not concern themselves about other people. You have enormity or conformity. If you conform, you don't make a difference. You fit in. But if you do something enormous and allow yourself to do something extraordinary with raising a beautiful family or child, or going out and doing something in any other area,
Yeah.
that's where it's at. Because your life is gonna tick by really quick.
Yeah.
It goes by, boom, it's years in my case, I'm 71 almost, and then just zipping by. And, your energy will drain if you're not doing what you're here to do, but your energy will just take off at the second you do.
And I can feel it from you. I can feel even you sharing that story. I can feel your inspiration and just your energy and your excitement and your fulfillment. So that's even just inspiring to hear. And as you, even with what you were sharing with the woman that was at your conference, it's, her sharing her mission statement, how impactful, or just her sharing her energy, how impactful that is to everyone around her, even if she's like, oh, just a mom in quotation marks. You see when someone is in their mission, in their values, in their purpose, people, you can't help but impact people. You can't help but, people can't take their eyes off you, or they want to learn from you, or they want to, you just.
That's because there's an innate yearning for authenticity inside everyone.
Exactly. Mhm.
And when you see somebody who's willing to live it,
Yeah.
you automatically respect it.
Mhm.
And you automatically attract people, places, things, ideas, and events to help people fulfill it. And so you wanna be around people that do something extraordinary. I got an email today from a friend of mine who's from India. I met him about 12 years ago, 13 years ago maybe, and he was a aspiring, musician and artist, and now he's doing things all over the world. He's got 3 Grammys, he's done amazing things, and he just every time he does another extraordinary thing, he sends me a little email, little thing, and says, "Can you believe it?" And I know he knows his mission. I know he knows what he's here for, the way he feels it, and he just stays on it. And I shared with him many years ago that if you fill your day with high priority actions that inspire you and delegate lower priority distractions that don't, you will be unstoppable and build momentum that makes a difference. And that's what many people don't give themselves permission to do.
Yes, and I couldn't agree more. It was something I was thinking about recently where it's like you will be bound. You can't not make steps, or I guess like a better word, but like succeed in the things that are high value to you. If you show up for it, if you bring that passion, it's just impossible not to. Yes, there are going to be challenges. Yes, there will things that will come up, but you can't not. I just, as a share of like a little backstory about me, and this was something that was really helpful with your work as well. I used to be a lawyer, and was not my place, was not my thing. I did it because that's what I thought that was societally and just even familiar in my family. That was a good job. That was something that I would be able to help people with. I felt anything but that. It felt like my soul was being sucked out of me daily. And I remember sitting in my office and just thinking, like, wow, maybe I could do something with, I loved health and wellness. I loved human design. I loved spirituality. I loved all the work that I do now, but the limiting belief for me was that, oh, I couldn't make money from that though. But I'm so grateful to myself, and I'm so grateful for, having as well people like you that I saw and looked up to, where it was like, okay, no, like, why couldn't I be able to do it? And it's something that when you show up for it and you give something a chance, and as you said, like high priority tasks, and you commit or you become devoted to your path, now I look back and it's like, I'm so grateful for that part of myself that did take a chance. And as well, like now it is, it's this business that's been able to create this beautiful life, but, you can't always see it ahead of you. But at the same time, you can have that daily prioritizing, daily action in order to then, compound effect.
Well, 40 years ago,
Yeah.
I was asked to speak in Dallas
Hmm.
at the Anatole Convention Center for Mary Kay Cosmetics Company. And they had 4,500 women in this big convention room. And I had to pinch myself. I thought this is the afterlife. I finally got all all the girls.
Yeah.
But all these beautiful women in front of me. I was the only man in the place. except for the guy doing sound checks and things.
Mhm.
And after I spoke, I had the opportunity to meet Mary Kay Ash, who was the founder of the company. And she came up and she was sitting on this kind of queen chair. It really, royal thing. And I walked up and I said, I do have a question. What advice could you give a young man who aspires to travel the world and inspire millions of people? Da, da, da. She looked with a big smile, very elegant, hair all sprayed up. And she said, every day, write down the highest priority actions that you can do that day, just a few. Don't put too many and don't make them more than that day. The
Mhm.
highest priority actions you can do today that will help you fulfill your dream. And then go and do them in the order of priority. And then at the end, if you have time left over, add one more. But if not, just keep a record of the gratitude of what you accomplished.
Mm.
Well, I did that on index cards, little 3 by 5 index cards every single day. And I kept them. And then I went back and looked at what was the highest priority most frequently out of the list each day. And it basically boiled down to 4 things: research, write, travel, teach.
Your values.
My values, and it was
Yeah.
really obvious. It was like,
Mhm.
that's what I really wanna be doing. That's what seems to work. That's what seems to generate the most income. That's what people recognize me by. That's my identity around that. And so I delegated the rest, and I don't do anything else but that. I haven't driven a car in 35 years. I haven't, cooked since I was 24. I don't do anything else. I
Mm.
delegate everything. Anything that requires external motivation to do, it's not me. It's not intrinsic. I only wanna live in intrinsic values that inspire me from within,
Mm.
and then delegate everything else to people who are inspired to do those things. And that way I give job opportunities to others as I end up generating income from their work and get wealthier. So I'm a firm believer in prioritizing your life and giving yourself permission to be you. I'd be second of somebody else when you can be the first at being you.
Oh, I needed to hear that. I can struggle to not so much delegate, but I can just be someone that will be like, oh, I can just quickly get it done and it'll be over with. But then, that all just adds up. And then, yeah, the high priority tasks aren't being prioritized.
Well, once you get the delegations in place, you really can't self-actualize your life without it because you can't do everything can't be priority.
Yeah.
Can't do it. You can't always stick to priority by doing everything.
Hmm.
So it's going through and discerning which is the most productive things to serve others and which is the most meaningful thing to serve you and find the niche between the two.
Mm.
And when you do, there's money because now you're making a difference in other people and they'll be willing to pay you.
Exactly.
I can't complain financially in my life. I used to live on the streets. I used to panhandle. Now I live on one of the most beautiful yachts, one of the biggest yachts in the world, and I get to travel with amazing people. So it starts,
Win-win.
but I was in Hawaii where I lived I actually got a picture of the park bench I lived under. It's still there. The same park bench
Oh,
is there. I got pictures the other day of it. And, but it's interesting to go back and look back 52 years and look at the transformation. And the only difference is giving myself permission to go and do the action steps that are proven to work through history. And that is
exactly.
to get onto priority and do it. Everybody has the capacity to do it. Now, it's easy to say, well, some people will see me today, well, you had a different life, but the reality is that it doesn't matter where you come from, what you've gone through, what you're going through. What matters is, are you going to do now the perception, decisions, and actions that are proven to make a vast difference in your life? You can live by design or you can live by duty. Most people try to live by duty and get trapped in moral hypocrisies instead of live by design and be inspired.
Absolutely. And it's ultimately it's your choice. It's never, we can feel like, oh, our life chose us or that path chose us. And it's you ultimately have the choice of deciding what your life is and who you are. What I'm really hearing from you is like moving from any form of like victimhood or any form of that's not possible for me or any form of I can't and into this empowered space of like, as simple as it sounds, but like, just do it. I think that's always been something that's helped me is that I've always just, yes, fears come up. And I would actually like to speak to that because, as I said, one of the biggest fears when I was thinking about starting my own business was this disbelief of being able to make money from something I love. I think it's a very deeply ingrained conditioning. And I know you help a lot of people with wealth and financial freedom. So, what do you see of like big subconscious beliefs around money and success and misconceptions around wealth and yeah, that financial freedom piece.
Well, if you exaggerate yourself with pride and look down on people and minimize them and resent them or devalue them, they're going to withdraw from you and not buy your service and not want to work for you. And if you minimize yourself and exaggerate them, you're eventually going to go, I deserve better than this. I deserve more than this. And you're going to eventually lift yourself up. So all the symptoms that go on in business and in life are feedbacks to try to get you to be yourself, not to exaggerate yourself, not to minimize yourself, but to just be yourself. To thy own self be true. The moment you do, you have sustainable fair exchange between you and others. See, when you puff yourself up, you're narcissistic and expect something from them to you. When you're altruistic, you expect something from you to them. When you try to give something for nothing or get something for nothing, it's non-sustainable. But when you try to do something of fair exchange that's equitable, that you are yourself, you have equanimity, and you have equitable between you and others, you now have sustainable fair exchange. And the mastery of money is the mastery of self, because that's what builds wealth. Wealth means well-being, whole being. It comes from the root weal, which means health or wealth, which means authentic state. So if we actually become materially wealthy with sustainable fair exchange, we're also becoming spiritually awakened and spiritually authentic. So they're one and the same thing. And many times people confuse those and they've been ingrained in, well, you can't be spiritual if you're material or something. No, the mastery of money is the mastery of your own identity. So authenticity, that's why you see some of the most powerful people that have sustainable wealth are inspired by some vision. They're doing something that's meaningful to them. So, yeah, you want to give yourself permission to go and be yourself and to create fair exchange. I had a gentleman when I was 18 years old, I started back to school. I took a GED, high school equivalency test. I finally passed. I eventually started to try to go back to school. I failed at first, but I didn't stop. I just started reading a dictionary and memorizing words until I eventually passed. I was driving in a carpool to this junior college, Wharton Junior College, and I had a friend who was an engineer who wanted to build magnetic trains back in 1973. And he went on to build magnetic trains, the magnetic trains that move at super speeds. That's his creation. But I wanted to travel the world and teach and be intelligent, be a scholar and write. And that was my dream. Well, we ended up having a guy carpool with us one day. And he was a rich kid that was kind of arrogant and kind of looked down on us. And the only thing he knew about me is before my life changed. So he knew I was a high school dropout. He knew I was, not doing anything and I was trying to go back to school. And I was telling him my dream, and the guy was telling his dream about building magnetic trains, and he's in the back seat, kind of arrogant. He goes, "You guys are just pipe dreams. These are ridiculous. You're probably going to work in the cotton gin or at the Polly Ryan Memorial Hospital or work in some factory. These are crazy dreams, man. You guys don't have what it takes. You come from a small town, you're going to end up in a small town." Well, we didn't kind of like that. He's raining on Ray. We kind of didn't decide to not go with him he didn't get to go with us on
Yeah.
the. Now that was 1973. 2.5 years ago, I was doing a live presentation at the end of COVID to about 8,000 people online. And I had a director in South Africa who was monitoring, the chat, the blog thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I get my director sent me a little question from somebody who was in the class. And I said, "Is that the John Demartini that used to live in Richmond, Texas?" I mean, I got that. I go, there's no way. I always say I grew up in Houston. I mention Richmond sometimes secondarily. So if he knew that, he had to be from there. No, because that goes back. I left there when I was 13. So it has to go way back. So I said, "Absolutely. Who is this?" I didn't know who it was. And he said his name. And I remembered he was the guy in the back seat. And I said, "How you doing? My God, I haven't seen you since I was 18. Where are you? What are you doing?" That kind of thing. And he sent a message back. He said, "You freaking did it, man." And he was in the class. So that was very meaningful to me too, because sometimes you share your dreams and some people project their values onto you and want you to fit into their world and what they see in you and what they believe about you. And There's gonna be naysayers all along the way, they're gonna think, "Oh, you can't do that. That's crazy." But if you just persevere and you never give up on your dream and you just keep working it, and it's really truly what's important to you,
Yeah.
you won't stop. You'll be relentless. You'll be in pursuit of some, design that you have in your life, in your mind. And the very people that ridicule you, violently oppose you and challenge you and criticize you become the people that actually, first they reject and then they criticize and then they violently oppose you. And then eventually they go, yeah, I remember when you started, I knew you'd do it. And this guy, by him just saying that, it meant a lot because I don't know what he got to do. He didn't really give me a lot of details about his life.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't turn out as well as he thought. I don't know. Maybe he was, went on to become super powerful. I don't know what the outcome was. I just know you friggin' did it, man.
Mm.
And what that meant to me was don't give up. Just keep going. People ask me, do you have any regrets in life? I said, no. There's nothing you have to change because it's
Mm.
all way. It's not in the way. And to see
Mm.
it any other way doesn't make any sense. It's all in the way. Whatever's happening in your life is part of it always has a flip side and always both sides, and it's always guiding you back to homeostasis and authenticity. So when you see that, you realize you build momentum because you can't really screw the thing up. You can't screw up if you're willing to see things on the way, not in the way.
Powerful. Thank you for sharing. I got goosebumps as you were sharing that experience. And it is really important, especially when you're in this almost, it can be a vulnerable place when you're sharing your dreams, or even just entertaining or exploring that potential. And I do think it is important with who you share that with or who you share that energy with. But that's such a beautiful reflection. It's happened for me as well, where someone who it just wasn't into what I was sharing. And she recently came on one of my retreats and be open in receiving it. And it just shows that, like, again, to how we were even saying earlier, that authenticity and that truth, your values, what you're here to share and what you're here to do, it will draw the people that it's in for, that it's meant to. And it
Yeah.
also won't, it will be for the people that it's not, but that's not up to us to worry about.
You can't let people, you know, when the voice and the vision on the inside is louder than all opinions on the outside, you mastered the game.
Beautiful.
We're either intrinsically called or extrinsically driven. And
Mm.
extrinsic drive does not have the power as intrinsic drive. So I'm a firm believer of prioritizing your life and live by design, not duty. And I find that, when people do that, they're inspired by their life. And when they don't, they feel, the world's on them instead of them on top of the world.
Absolutely. It's not sustainable. This is where people are burnt out. This is where people are frustrated with their lives. And I, like you, it sometimes, yeah, it feels like this life force energy is just moving through you. You feel so devoted to it. You feel so almost in service to the energy that's wanting to move through you, that you want to eat, sleep, and do it. And it's also something that I've had to, like, also prioritize rest and things with, because sometimes it's like can almost feel hard to switch off. But what I would just love what you're saying, and so what we've moved through is like, okay, firstly, what are your values? Really getting clear. And like, I love how you mentioned it's like, you know your values, you know what you want, your body knows, life is reflecting back to you. You might not know every step in order to carry that out. You might not have certainty around how it's going to look, but you do know your values.
You have within you the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. You have an intuition
Yeah.
that is constantly prompting you and guiding you to become aware of what you're unconscious of. It's
Mm.
prompting questions that is guiding you to know what you thought you didn't know.
Yes.
So I'm a firm believer that the intuition is not the wisdom, but the intuition leads you back to homeostasis and authenticity, and it's guiding it. So when you're infatuated with somebody, let's say a woman meets a man and she's infatuated, think, oh my God, he's Superman. Her intuition is saying, too good to be true. Don't be gullible. Keep your eyes open. Watch out. Don't rush it. That's trying to get her to see both sides of the man, not just the one side where you're blind and ignoring the downsides. And if you meet somebody you resent and you think, and now your intuition is saying there must be a reason why this person's in my life. There must be a purpose by it. There's got to be meaning behind this. What's the meaning this person showed up? It's constantly trying to reveal to you the upsides when you're resenting something and the downsides of that to bring you into seeing both sides simultaneously, where you're poised and present and purposeful and patient and prioritized and profoundly powerful. When you do that, you become unstoppable because you see things, it's guiding you. It's a feedback, trying to get you to homeostasis, trying to get you in a point where you're steady and stable and strategized. So I'm a firm believer in listening to that little inner voice. And I don't, many people confuse the impulse of the amygdala and the instinct from the real inner voice. And they allow the outer impulse to seek or avoid that's distracting mind, the noisy animal affective mind to interfere with the wise, you might say, angelic state that is guiding us and purposely directing us to something meaningful and purposeful.
And when you can see that, and when we can place priority and also see that as the voice that you can trust and can listen to, even if it may feel, like logic or other people can't corroborate that.
Whenever you have tears of inspiration,
Mm.
I always say tears of inspiration and aha and eureka moments and gamma synchronicities in the brain, as they call them, are confirmations of authenticity. And if we pay close attention to the content of our mind in the moments of tears of inspiration and write them down and keep a record of them, they're guiding us directly towards what we're here to do. It's very obvious. I've learned that all these years. And I started the night I met Paul Bragg. I really got a tear of inspiration that night. And I looked at the content, and anytime I've had a tear of inspiration, reading, watching a movie, it doesn't matter what, I stop, I get present, I get the content, and I write it down and I look at it, and it's just revealing what it is that I'm up to and what I'm committed to. These are confirmations of authenticity, these tears of inspiration, because they're letting us know we're not exaggerating and minimizing ourselves. We're seeing ourselves for who we are, and it's directing us intuitively. And it's a real powerful thing to follow in life. And I've asked people around the world in many countries, I mean, 160 countries,
Wow.
and each individual knows what I'm talking about. They
Hmm.
know what I'm talking about when they have one of those moments of inspiration. And occasionally you get somebody go, I've never had that, but that's rare. Most people know that state and they listen to it and they follow it and they've learned to use that as feedback. And it's a very powerful feedback to authenticity.
Well, it's powerful even just when you've spoken here, I can see it in your eyes, even just when you speak about the things that you are so passionate about and you're so well versed in. And it's also inspiring for other people to see that. So yes, values, these tears of inspiration, this devotion that you feel, as well then taking consistent action. I'm hearing from you of like, okay, daily prioritizing the task. What can step you forward in this, in
Well,
creating that thing?
if you delegate everything else is not, you don't have to do the other stuff.
I know, you're inspiring me. Just you wait.
I,
I'm going to start
I,
delegating more to my team because it is something that it's been a big thing for me working through this just this past year. But I'm like, even just hearing you speak, I'm just like, I'm over that. I'm not carrying that anymore. I'm just sick of my own shit
I,
like that.
anything that does anything that I'm not spontaneously inspired to do that
Mm.
I recall reminding, motivation or extrinsic drive or something to push me to do it, I delegate it. That's
Amazing.
just my son. And it didn't happen overnight. I just gradually did it
Ah,
layer by layer. But all of a sudden I go, so I've got now, cooks and I've got drivers and pilots and captains and
yeah.
I have people that change the clocks when we go into different time zones sailing. I've got, I'm not domestic. I don't do that. I've got people to clean. I got a button for every one of those things that I need done. I just hit that button and I just focus on teaching, researching, writing, and travel.
And that's
Period.
what that's what you're generating, not only energy, but you're generating impact, you're generating wealth. And so it's like really seeing that's where, your energy is designed to go rather than feeling like what you should do or what you have to do, all these things. I love that you're just taking it even further of no, I'll redesign my whole life
Give
in that
yourself
way.
permission. Give
Exactly.
yourself permission to do what you love and love what you do.
Yeah. What else is life about?
Yeah, life goes by too quick. And I hear people in my seminars regularly at the Breakthrough Experience, my signature program, they say, well, I've got to do this. And I said, according to who? And
Mm,
they stop.
exactly.
And they go, well, that's a good question. And then they find out that their parents expect that, or their community that they associate with expect it. It's some dynamic that we subordinate to mothers and fathers and preachers and teachers or conventions and traditions and mores instead of our own soul, our own calling. Now, some people say, well, that's selfish. Well, I spend a lot of time doing a lot of service for people. I don't think it's selfish. I'm doing what I love and I'm making a difference in people's lives. So if you want to call it selfish, usually people that call you selfish are people projecting their values onto you and expecting you to live in their values, which is selfish.
Yes, which is ultimate. And
Like,
it, yeah.
whatever people label you, I just hold the mirror up. Take a look at that. Letting go of things that aren't really highest in priority. Just say thank you. Now, some people think, well, but what about this? And what about that? And I go, what about it?
Yeah.
You know, there was a lady, this is a bit of left field a bit, but when I first moved on to the ship that I live on, I had some other people that were also living there temporarily. And there was a very wealthy family that decided to live there. It's a collective. It's like a floating condominium kind of ship. It's just 100 people that live on it.
Mm.
And so a very wealthy family, and they had a daughter who was 16 years old. And, the people that are not really trying to make the biggest difference and kind of surviving all the time, they become generalist instead of specialist in most cases. And the parents of this daughter said, what we were going to do is we're going to get a condominium, buy an apartment on the ship. You're going to live there. We're going to give you independence, and we're going to hire the number one Nobel Prize winner, the professor emeritus, the brightest individuals in each field, and they're going to come and privately teach you 6-week sessions and private classes in the field of their expertise. And so I got to listen in on some of these classes and join them for breakfast or lunch or dinner or something like that. And this girl at 16 started being trained by multiple, I mean, a Nobel Prize winner would come on, live there for, 6 weeks and just download their dreams, their goals, their ambitions, and teach whatever they can to this girl about their field, which is like extraordinary.
Yeah.
And she goes, the next 6 weeks, there'll be another one. And the next 6 weeks, be another one. So the parents bought 2 apartments, one for the Nobel Prize winner, one for this, and just to learn about it and found out what the fees are and just paid the Nobel Prize winner for 6 weeks of their time. And they were not as expensive, you could buy that. And it's interesting. I've met a lot of Nobel Prize winners. So in the process of doing it, by the time she was 22, she had multiple companies. She was serving vast numbers of people. She was already financially independent. 22, 5 years, 6
Wow.
years. I mean, it was extraordinary what this girl did. And I mean, it was just extraordinary. So, and she was socially impactful and she was being taught, look for the biggest problems in the world and what you can contribute to solve them. And if you don't have the skills, find somebody to do it and go and build something that solves problems. And she was thinking outside the box and already by the time she was 22 doing extraordinary things. And so I thought, wow, that's because the parents didn't get trapped in the idea, this is what you should do as a parent. What exactly is it that would do the greatest thing? And then the parents would come and visit her and give her and ask her what she's learning and tell and let her share what's inspiring to her and what's happening with her. And let the guidance of what classes she was taking be her own inspirations. And
Mm.
then she got to excel. It was really extraordinary to watch what's possible. And most people, they don't have that awareness. They don't believe in that possibility. They just assume that you follow a trade that your parents did or follow something that your society says you to do. And that's the box most people are trapped in.
Mm.
And it's because they've never asked within, what is it I feel I'm called to bring to this world?
Yeah. Asking those.
Who are you not to be a self-actualized individual? That's what Maslow used to say. Who are
Mm.
you not to be a leader of the world? Who are you not to be somebody that contributes vastly to people?
Mm. And yeah, because it's almost selfish not to, if we even go into using that terminology as earlier. And I love what you're sharing because, we could obviously go on a big discussion with the schooling and traditional schooling. And, just even that example shows that those parents asked different questions or decided that they could choose differently. And then you can see how, yeah, you can create anything within this plane. And so anything is possible. And you did mention, and I really want to touch deeper into this. You mentioned about the generalist versus the specialist. Can you go a little bit deeper in with that?
Well, when I first started my practice in 1982, I did most everything. And then I hired an assistant, and she did some of the reception and answering the phone and doing some of the bills and this kind of stuff. And then I hired a bookkeeper, and then I hired another assistant in the back clinically, and it just kept growing as I read this book, The Time Trap, about delegating. And in 18 months, I went from myself and one assistant to 5 doctors, 12 staff members, a 1,000 square foot office to 5,000 square foot office, And the amount that I was generating was tenfold over what I was making, but I was doing more and more of what I wanted to do, which was teach and train and learn, teach, train.
Yeah.
And so I eventually had the doctors take over the practice. I went out and educated doctors and educated teams and made way more income and served way more patients. Instead of me in my office seeing, 100 patients a day or something, I can go out and now serve 1,000 doctors and increase 50 to 100 patients in their day, and I can reach millions of people that way. And I was getting rewarded on a larger scale. So I realized that I can leverage myself with a voice. Your voice is the instrument upon which you play the symphony of your life. If you use your voice to share what's inspiring to you and you can do it in a way that inspires others to live their dreams, man, the sky's the limit what opens.
Beautiful. I know you speak as well about embracing both pleasure and pain as part of life's balance. Can you please explain how understanding this will help people, yeah, embrace or change or evolve rather than fight it?
Well, if you're constantly trying to run from pain and seek only pleasure, you'll be like an animal run with your amygdala, and you won't be an executive. There's a thing in the brain called hedonic adaptation or hedonic paradox or hedonic treadmill, sometimes called, which shows that as you pursue pleasure, the more you pursue it, the more painful it becomes. No, and this is what leads to addiction because the addiction to that pleasure makes you go after stronger doses to try to get it again because it automatically weans down. The first time you kiss a girl, the very first night, you kiss them for 45 minutes. You're doing a esophageal microbiome evaluation. But the second time it's 43 minutes, the third time it's 41 minutes. It kind of goes down as it goes, and then
Okay.
all of a sudden it'll peck.
Yeah.
So that's the hedonic adaptation because the pledge you get if you start a different person, you might get that again, but that same person, it adapts. And the same thing on pain. The first time somebody does something, it's painful, it really hurts, but after a while you get used to it. So we have adaptation and homeostatic feedback systems to calm down the illusions of pleasure and pain. Anaxagoras 2,600 years ago said that pain and pleasure are simply lopsided perceptions of the human mind. And they're basically incomplete awarenesses. When you see both pain and pleasure, you experience love. C.S. Lewis talked about this, and many other great philosophers have known this. And the synthesis of pairs of opposites is what Heraclitus said is the unity of opposites, which is love versus strife. And so the pursuit of one-sidedness, the Buddha said the desire for that which is unobtainable, pleasure, and the desire to avoid that which is unavoidable, pain, is a source of human suffering. So I find out what it is that inspires me, which is where I am willing to do and embrace pain and pleasure in the pursuit of something meaningful that serves. Because my schedule is intense. And other people, man, I couldn't do this. It would be crazy.
I
It'd be
know.
painful. But I just see it as the means to an end. Both pain and pleasure are means to an end. When you get in a new relationship and you think you got the infatuated person, you think, oh my God, they're all positive, no negatives. And then as you go along, you find out, well, they have things you didn't know about, right? And then you discover they have positives and negatives, things you like and dislike, but you love them. Well, that's what love is, the embracing of positives and negatives and pleasures and pains in the pursuit of something meaningful.
I love this so much. Embracing the pleasures and pain in the pursuit of something meaningful. I think this is important because, you know, even to what we were saying, if you're out of alignment with your values and it's painful and it's hard and it's challenging, that's a different story when that's like cueing you, that's that feedback system to get back onto your path, get back into your values. Whereas this is a totally different situation. It's providing the challenges and the pain that's stimulating and pursuing your growth while you're pursuing the thing that's most meaningful for you. Because we know that we grow in the discomfort, we grow when things are challenging. So I love that you're saying this because it's like that is part of it. Because I know sometimes people can be like, well, and I've seen it even with some of my clients that are learning human design. It's like, I don't always want to show up for a session or I don't always want to show up to every day. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't mean it's the wrong thing for you. Sometimes we are going to have moments where it feels challenging or feels painful, but for the bigger reason, you see your devotion in what you're doing. It makes it satisfying once you do it or satisfying when you move through it.
I was speaking at a little United Nations group and I found out researching that topic. I've been researching that a long time. I
Really,
mean,
yeah.
I wanted to know what genius was when I was 18. So I've been pursuing this 52 years. When you pursue challenges that inspire you, like Elon Musk, I want to go to Mars. Challenges that inspire you. Those are really big challenges to go to Mars. You got radiation and gravitation and acceleration. I mean, this is mathematics at its finest. When you pursue challenges that inspire you, innovation, creativity, original thinking, and genius is born. And so people that are not doing what they love and not pursuing something that challenges yet inspires them, they're going to try to go and avoid pain and seek pleasure, which is the amygdala, not the executive center. And they're going to pursue that which is unobtainable and try to avoid that which is unavoidable and attract challenges that don't inspire them. And that's distress. But when you pursue challenges that inspire you, it's eustress, it's hermetic, and it helps you build resilience and adaptability and creativity. So I'm a firm believer is finding some problem in the world that is absolutely a major problem that people are trying to solve. Find the one that you are really dedicated to serving and solving and get after it. Go find out what it is. In my case, it was in the field of human behavior. Others, it might be in engineering. Elon Musk, how do we get to Mars and build transportation systems that's energy efficient? Whatever that problem is, finding that. The Ansari Prize by Anusha and the Ansari family, I met, they were from Tehran, and they asked, what are the biggest problems the world is facing and how do we solve them? And then they raise money and offer a $10 million prize for whoever solves it. And then innovation and creativity is born. And then they get funders, banks, investors, or whatever, to bring up the money. And then they get involved in the creation of the thing that solves problems, and they do it as an investment. It's a
Wow.
brilliant strategy. Branson does the same thing. He goes and finds out what's the biggest problem. How do we find it? How do we get the solutions? Let's go solve it.
Yeah, that's it. It can be, that's just commerce, that's a business. And when we're seeing that you're just solving a problem that someone has, and it's often what you've had in the past, what you've experienced, or something that has grind your gears, or something you've contemplated or been perplexed in. And I just really want to reflect back to you how deeply inspiring this conversation has been. And I know so much for the listeners and everyone, like, honestly, you have inspired me so much in this interview. So I just want to reflect back how you're really doing. You're definitely solving the problems that, yeah, you're pursuing. So thank you so much. I would love to just ask you one more question. Is that all right?
Certainly.
Yeah. I really, you have studied integrated psychology or neuroscience, metaphysics, psychology, all your 31,000 books. What is a universal truth that you have seen underlying all these different modalities and fields that you believe applies to all humanity for all of us?
It's
A
like
little
the
question.
unified field theory in one go. Heraclitus, who is a Greek philosopher, wrote about the unity of opposites. I still think that's one of the most profound principles known. Our dialectic in the study and pursuit of epistemology and knowledge is based on it. Our social structure is built on it. Every relationship is built on it. Our quantum physics is built on it, from entanglement of pairs of opposites. I mean, every discipline that I've studied, which is 300 different disciplines, all point to it. So I'm a firm believer that the unity of opposites is one of the most profound principles that a human being can grasp. And then the second one would be the law of the one to many. From the one comes the many, from the many come the one. And this is a dynamic equilibrium that occurs as the unity of opposites manifested. And these two overlapping principles underlie most every field you'll study. So those are the universal laws of the universal laws, you might say. The
Mm.
unity of opposites. I mean, when we think of gravity, we think of something that's going from many radii into oneness, into a singularity point. And we think of radiation, we think of singularity point going into an infinite number of radii. So radiation and gravitation, both inverse square laws, are one to many to one, but they're pairs of opposites. One is light and one is dark, leads to darkness. So you see this unity of opposites, and you see the law of the one to many underlying the physics of life. And when we grasp that in psychology, when people go out and date, they're looking for that special one. But once they got the one, they're wondering about the many. And it's this oscillation, and keeping those in balance is what stabilizes relationships. And so the mastery of the unity of opposites, the mastery of the law of the one to many is very profound principle in human psychology. We have one true authentic self and many personas. As we integrate the pairs of opposites in our personas, we become our one authentic self. As we disintegrate the one into the many, we go and learn about our new parts of ourselves. So we go and oscillate back between the one and the many. As we integrate and be authentic, we go off on our next illusion and judgment and then become inauthentic. And then we return back to authenticity. So this law is pretty well the most universal principles that I've been able to see in all the disciplines, chemistry and mathematics and physics and you name it, quantum physics, nuclear physics. You have a division of the small atoms, they fuse. The large atoms, they fizz. The fusion and fission oscillate around an iron and nickel right at the halfway point in physics in the periodic table. The law of the one to many and the law of unity of opposites are sitting right in the periodic table of chemistry. You can study all of chemistry by those two principles.
Beautiful. And then you can see that even within your own life. Okay, like we've got the desire, and then it's going to be the opposite of the fear. And just having that will be what's present. You're giving,
The
the more
more
you will receive.
the more you're infatuated with something, the more you fear its loss.
Exactly.
Something, the more you fear its gain, and the more you fantasize about the loss. So there's only two forms of distress in life: the perception of loss of something you seek, or the perception of gain of something you avoid. And the perception of gain and loss is, again, a unity or diversity principle, the one and the many. So these unity of opposites and things in every aspect of psychology. So if you understand that foundation, you can build a tremendous amount of understanding of human behavior.
Yeah, an understanding of yourself. And then you're not thinking that you have to believe everything you basically think, or believe everything that you fear, or believe everything you're thinking you're going to lose or that you're going to avoid. And then you can actually just, yeah, be in your homeostasis, how you were saying earlier.
Well, the master lives in a world of transformation. The masses live in the illusions of gain and loss. The people who can see both sides, Wilhelm Wundt, the father of experimental psychology in 1897, after he published his book on psychology, tried to say that there's a unity of opposites, what he called a simultaneous contrast or a sequential opposites, sequential contrast, which meant that there's an oscillation in time between the pairs of opposites. When you have a pair of opposites and there's time between it, you have aging and you have the physics of entropy, and you have now the illusion of life, and you're now dispersed and you're gravitationally weighed down and feel you're down and the world is on top of you. But if you see the unity of opposites and you see that it's nothing but love, all else was illusion, you now transcend it. You now radiate with light, and you now give off radiation to others to open the light for other people to see what they're in darkened on. It's a beautiful study of the physics of this. It's just absolutely amazing.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I have enjoyed our conversation so much and just feel, as we said, I'm very inspired by you. I'm very inspired by the way you share, you teach, your depth of knowledge. I know that anyone who is listening is going to have received so much. So I really want to thank you for the service that you're doing in the world and all that you bring. It's incredible. And it's really incredible to see how passionate and how, yeah, embodied you are in your teachings and what you do. So really, thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate the time with you and the questions and our tears and everything
Yeah.
along the way.
I know, I know. I had full body goosebumps for a lot of our conversation. So thank you. And
Well,
how will the listeners be able to dive deeper into your work? I really recommend your books, but as well, do you have any speaking events anytime soon in Australia or?
I'll be back in Australia, I believe, in March.
Oh,
Begin
amazing.
a tour in March, I think. And I'll be there again in sometime in the summertime. I'm not sure, but I'll be there at least 2 or 3 times this year.
Okay.
And yeah, I used to come 4 times a year to Australia at least. I think
Wow.
I've been over 30 years now. Well, I first went there in 1994. For 30 years, I've been going to Australia. And I was married to an Australian woman.
Oh,
I,
were
I
you? Where was she
yeah,
from?
she was from Melbourne,
Oh,
and
cool.
she was a mystic wonder from down under. She was a real
Yes.
mystic, and they called her Athena Star Woman. So
Oh,
she was
beautiful.
an amazing girl.
Oh.
And, yeah, amazing lady, absolutely. But, yeah, I've been in Australia many times, but I will be back there, I think, in March. I believe that's
Oh,
I'm flying from somewhere in South America or whatever back there.
okay, amazing. Well, I'll put all the information below for anyone. So thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. I'll put all those links, as I said, below. Thank you so much, John. How inspiring is he? I was so ignited after this conversation and already made so many shifts in my business and that have worked so beautifully and so well. So it was just such important reminders that I heard from him and in just different ways. And when you hear something in a different way, it just really sparks something within you. So please, let this digest, let this really go into your subconscious. If you want, re-listen. It's a beautiful, beautiful episode, and I'm very grateful to have met John. if you would like to dive deeper into human design and become an advanced human design leader and a practitioner, we have opened up enrollment. So this is a space where you can really follow those curiosities. You can become an expert in the thing that transformed and helped you, and then share it with other people, similar to how John was talking about, how he was saying that he followed the things that he was interested in and learnt about it and then now teaches on it. So human design has always been the thing that excited me the most and the thing that helped me the most. So I just saw it as this was a clue and this was a breadcrumb, that something that I potentially could share. And I'm so grateful that I did. And it's something that I am so passionate about, and especially in the way that I share it, in combination with Vedic teachings, the Kabbalah, and also psychology and IFS. So it's a really beautiful space. It's for 6 months. We venture together. We get very familiar and cozy and supportive. And it's a very, very information, knowledge-rich space. And also you are guided and mentored in the creation of your business. So as I said, when I was starting, I didn't know how I would make it into a business. I didn't know how I would make money from it. And now, I make so much more than I ever did in law. So, and there's no glass ceiling, and there's something that can feel deeply, deeply fulfilling and impactful for you. So if you'd like to join, please dive into the link below. And we start in March. I'm very excited. There's going to be even more wisdom sessions and even more collaboration and interaction with each other and with me. So enjoy. Thank you so much for listening, and I will speak to you next week.